Hi everyone, this is Christina's Black Tea News, and today I'm going to be talking about a local story in Michigan that has just gone national. And this is a story about the Michigan Republican Party chair, Ron Weiser, and some comments he made about the governor, the attorney general, and the secretary of state, and why people are upset. And he did kind of backtrack and apologize, and we will talk about that. So before we go on, please make sure that you visit blacktnews.com, that you look at content that I have, that you, whether it's videos or articles, you check that stuff out. Make sure that you are liking, that you're subscribing, that you are sharing, doing all the things. Check out the store that I have. You may find something that you really like and something that you like for someone else. Go ahead and spend what you may have left of that stimulus money or, regular job money, whatever. And also, please, if you would like to give, you like what I do, go ahead and leave a donation, and you can do so by visiting blacktnews.com/donate, or you can go ahead and use one of those links from like PayPal or Cash App. I appreciate all that you guys do. Thank you for being part of this conversation. So Ron Weiser was at an event, Republican event, and he's talking about the ladies who run Michigan, and he referred to them as witches and three witches, and people are upset, and it became a national story because you have this Republican mean old man who said things about the women, and and it's so silly and ridiculous when you consider that all the insanity with the name calling that we've had throughout the years in general, but particularly in the Trump years, stuff that people said about Melania and his family and other stuff like that. But and Republicans say bad things too. I mean, there's some Michelle jokes that are like really bad. So it's definitely not one-sided. But I've heard Orange Hitler a lot and Orange Man bad and the Cheeto and all this other stuff. So people pretending that they're so offended about name calling with politics. And by the way, this is not some kind of new modern phenomenon. People made all kinds of comments back in the day when you just had to read things in a printed press. So of way back when, people said all kinds of things. Fainting at a comment like this is really, really disingenuous, I would say. Ron Weiser is also a regent of U of M, and so the people spoke out, because obviously there's Democrats on that panel. They spoke out against him. There's women who were like, this is sexism, and came out in solidarity against Ron. And so to be fair, I guess, that was sexist of Ron. How does he know that he didn't misgender them? How does he know that they don't refer to themselves as warlocks and not witches? So shame on you, Ron. How do you know they identify as witches and not warlocks? No, but seriously though, these three ladies in particular, they are opportunistic, and they do all these kind of awful things, and then they cry victim. Now, when it comes to Whitmer, you could say that she has some legitimate concerns or things to talk about as far as rhetoric and stuff, because there were people who tried to allegedly kidnap her. And I say allegedly because it's still an ongoing story. There's people who's representing some of the people in the case. But at the time, she's like, oh, this Trump rhetoric. And he was like, liberate Michigan. And there's people doing this stuff. First of all, I don't even think that timing is correct from the time that they even started plotting that. But it doesn't negate the fact that she did basically terrorize the people of Michigan. They would go after people and they would prosecute them maliciously, and that she exercised an authority that she did not have, that it was ruled unconstitutional. And when the courts took away her club that she would bludgeon over our head, used to bludgeon our heads with, that she went to the health department, and basically they're like, well, if you still don't do what we say, we're going to strip you of your business license, and we're going to ruin your livelihood. So you better enforce the things that we want you to enforce, or we're going to destroy you. These people are very cruel to Michiganders. So, but if you talk about them, they're going to cry victim, even though they've created many, many victims. So I just want to quickly talk about these three particular women. So Gretchen Whitmer, during the coronavirus pandemic, there were African Americans who were dying at a higher rate than other races. Now, you could say that some of those are life choices. some of those are genetic, some of whatever the issues are. I mean, high blood pressure, obesity, all this other stuff that could play in a factor that you could consider. But Whitmer decided to say, obviously this is racism, guys. This is racism. They decided that they were going to start having like this confirmation bias training with nurses and medical professionals that they have to go through now. And so these people who are hailed as heroes and all this other stuff, you may be heroes, but you're still racist, and you're killing black folks. You're letting your black patients die. So you got to go through training to make sure you're not just killing black people. To infer that, and she hasn't used the word racist, but that's basically what you're implying. And not just implying, you're punishing people and having them go through this training. Not only you're calling people that, you're making them accountable for an action that isn't probably true. So Whitmer's pretty awful. I think that's worse than calling someone a witch. So there's that. There's Dana Nessel. Oh, crazy Dana Nessel. So crazy Dana Nessel actually campaigned, and this is not a joke. She campaigned on, I'm a woman. So as a woman, I'm not going to sexually assault you like a man would. And I'm paraphrasing, but you can watch it yourself.
Who can you trust most not to show you their penis in a professional setting? Is it the candidate who doesn't have a penis? I'd say so.
So this crazy person who is literally a man-hating lesbian. I know some people don't like that sort of distinction, but that's what she is. Vote for me because I'll be a woman attorney general, and I'm clearly not going to rape you. I'm clearly not going to sexually assault you, even though, lesbians do have, it's not like lesbians don't commit like assault against each other or whatever. Or that women can't be abused with the men, but, or that women can't sexually assault men, but, that was her shtick. And, people did not expect her to win, but we had a really massive ballot proposal that shifted people out and just kind of overtook the polls in 2018. And they need to throw this woman under the bus. She is psychotic. And I feel like me saying psychotic because it's much stronger than the word witch, but at least I'm not sexist because I'm saying this. I'm not a man, so I could say this. And she was on Gretchen's train as far as maliciously prosecuting people, and they would prosecute people. They go after them and they agree to like dismiss cases, and then they'd be like, we're going to dismiss, and she'd say, no, we're not going to dismiss. And then the judges would be mad, and then they would come back and try to do the cases, and she wouldn't even show. So on top of like being psychotic and sexist herself, a man-hating lesbian, she's just not professional at her job, and she's full of bias. She has a mean streak. She went after like orphanages that are like Christian based. Obviously they have a preference and they prefer to have parents who are heterosexual. And so she didn't like that. So she went after the orphanages. She would rather, and you can disagree with the premise of where these organizations stand, but she would rather these places not exist and not help children if they don't bow to what she wants. She's definitely not a great person. If anyone needs to go down, it's her in the next election in 2022. She's psychotic, and I think that is much stronger wording than the one that Ron Weiser used. And now let's talk about Jocelyn Benson, who is the Secretary of State. By the way, the Secretary of State, since she's taken over, has been awful. Right now, if you want to get like a permit or something to drive, then you have to wait like 2 months right now to get in to do that, unless you know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. But you should not have to go through back channels to get to the Secretary of State office. So, and yeah, that's the pandemic, but we are a year into it. There should be a better system set up right now, but things were already bad before. Like as soon as she took over, things got just so worse with the Secretary of State office. Like my local one, all of a sudden we don't have the texting to wait in line stuff anymore. So I don't know what's all going on there, but she ruined that. Obviously we had a big mess with the elections, and she used an authority that she didn't have. But also she used to come from the Southern Poverty Law Center firm. And basically it's a front liberal leftist group that makes a career on labeling people they don't like racist, so they can just kind of ruin lives and put them on a list. And then Democrats will be able to point to, aha, this group called them racist, so I don't have to do my own research and affirm if any of that is true because this group said that they are. So, and mislabeling someone a hate group, way worse than calling someone a witch, in my opinion. But that's the kind of place that she came out of. And another thing that Benson did recently and got some national attention for is she went to Congress and advocated for a bill overturning basically authority from the state for your elections and stuff on a federal level. And I think any state official who goes and does some kind of advocacy to get rid of your local power and to give it a way to a bigger power should be absolutely voted out of office. You are there at your job for the interest of your people in your state to advocate to surrender power to the federal level. Obviously, there's an evil plot afoot. And you are not there for the interest of the citizens that you represent. So if anything, there's lots of reasons I think that Benson should not be reelected. But this is something that's red flag, sound the alarms. So all these ladies are radical. All these ladies believe in child sacrifice. What do you mean child sacrifice? You know I'm talking about abortion. And you might have got just triggered because I mentioned that. But you know what? Outside of doing it for medical reasons, whether it's a life or death situation for you or what you feel is medically compassionate for the child because of whatever condition they may have or whatever. Outside of that, it is self-sacrifice. It's like you're throwing a baby in a volcano so you can get a graduate degree or something like that. Like, what else do you call it? You're sacrificing a person for your chance at a better future. Might as well be doing it for your crops to grow. And not only do these ladies believe it and stand for it and advocate for it, they also believe that it's more essential than your businesses that they forced to close down, that they shut out, during this pandemic, that they said that you couldn't open up or you couldn't let people buy seeds even though they're already in your store, or you couldn't have your flower shop, or you couldn't, you if you were sick and you had a mass and you're like, I don't know if this is cancer or not. That's too bad. You can't figure that out. That's not a necessary surgery right now. It's like, what do you mean? I don't know if I don't have cancer. You can't go to the hospital right now. You need your pacemaker stuff changed out. Too bad. You need brain surgery? Guess what? We're not going to do that right now because that's not an essential surgery. But if you need to go have that abortion, you take care of that right away. These are the kind of women that we're talking about. I don't think they're fainting if you call them a witch. As a matter of fact, Gretchen Whitmer took a book about witches and stuff. So she hears this stuff and she markets it. And like that one from Michigan, pretty sure she made a shirt. Which I don't know how she made a shirt like that because a screen printing t-shirt shop like that would have been not essential and shut down, but she found herself a way. I'm really not going to pretend that these people are terribly offended because Ron Weiser called them witches. So one thing that was also said at the event with Ron Weiser was people asked him like, hey, what about the witches in our own party? And he said, outside of like assassination, there's nothing you can do besides like voting people out. So he did apologize for this because you don't want people to get the wrong idea or do something dumb. And maybe that was a little heated or whatever, which he didn't probably say that in a heated manner. I wasn't at the event. I was at church that night. I would assume it wasn't in a heated sort of way, but stated as obviously that's a ridiculous thing that you would resort to. So there are no options outside that you can do that are reasonable besides voting someone out. But people do get all kinds of death threats all the time. And I'm sure like Myers and Upton and other people have got them. I'm sure Weiser has gotten them himself. And it's never fun. It's never cool. That there's always going to be some kind of psychos and stuff out there. So he did apologize for that rhetoric. But honestly, guys, if you're aware of how the party politics work at all, if you think that Ron Weiser would even suggest in the least bit, in a genuine level, that it was possible even suggest and mean that it was a reasonable thing to consider assassinating someone like Fred Upton or Peter Meyer. Guys, he is Upton has been the congressperson for the 6th district for a while, and Meyer is new. But Meyer, his last name is Meyer, and if you're unfamiliar with Myers is a major grocery store chain, and Myers obviously is a rich family, and he is the chair of the Michigan Republican Party, and his job is to raise money. So I'm sure that, I don't know how well they know each other, the families, but I'm sure they know each other fairly well. That it's just not plausible or reasonable to even think that this would be a serious route that a person like this would seriously suggest. And maybe he should have chosen he should have chosen his words more carefully. So I agree with him clarifying or apologizing in this regard. But any serious person, and sometimes people use heated sort of rhetoric or whatever, that's kind of more rhetorical. And this wasn't even rhetorical. It's just like this would be a ridiculous, there's no situation that you can do besides voting people out, because this extreme thing that I just mentioned is obviously ridiculous. So the only option you truly have is voting someone out. So that's, is the context of the conversation. And I wasn't there at the time, but I do know Ron. So if you're a serious person and you're pretending in any regard that this was some kind of serious suggestion, and this is some kind of thing that someone would interpret that Ron would want them to do, or be a plausible thing for people in the party to do, you're just not a serious person. You're just totally not a serious person. And, but I understand, like, if you're a Democrat, if you're a journalist, like, it's your job to inflame these things. Some journalists, it's your job to make Republicans look bad. It just is. That's your job now. You can say it's not. Like, you don't have a team. You totally do. You totally do. Most of you do. I get it. But you're just not a serious person. Oh, Christina, you're excusing it. I'm not excusing it. I'm just explaining to you the reality of the situation. And I wouldn't use, or I would try not to use words quite like that. And in a situation like that, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have said anything in that situation. There's an article that said he talked to Upton and he talked to Meyer, and I'm pretty sure they were like, yeah, I know you don't mean anything like that. Especially over the impeachment of Trump, right? Because, and there's a strong base that still really loves Trump, that's really still waiting for him to come back in 2024. But realistically, he's the chair for the next 2 years. And the most important thing to him right now would be, how do we move the party forward? And how do we bring people together? How do we raise dollars? It's the position of the party not to really get involved in primaries. That's the position that they're supposed to have. I'm not going to say that's always the case, but it's their position that they are supposed to kind of fight it out amongst themselves. And whoever wins, whoever is that person, is the person that they back and try to support. So whatever beef that you have in the 6th district or the 3rd district with your Congress people, that's your beef to work out in your primaries, right? But his job as chair at the end of the day is to beat whoever the Democrat is. So it's definitely interesting to see so much national attention for something that's happening in your own backyard, and something that's happening with people that you know. I did work at the Michigan Republican Party for a little while under Ron Weiser when I was the creative director. I got hired under Ronna McDaniel, who is the RNC chair right now, and then I worked under Ron a little bit. So in conclusion, I know that the media does what it does, and it has to kind of do this. Republicans are bad, Republicans are sexist, Republicans are blah, like, that's their thing, they're war on women, etc., blah, blah, blah. I'm sure Ron knows that Democrats say things that are much worse behind closed doors, not even necessarily behind closed doors, and they'll do things that are much worse than saying things like "you're a witch." We need people who are going to stand up to these women, and they need to be out, and they are going to go off of this trifecta that they have of the womanhood and being women and all this. So they're going to use that as their weapon. So people need to really get over this sexist thing, because they're gonna call you sexist if you do anything against them. It's just the truth. And a lot of things that they have done is evil. A lot of things that they stand for are evil. And if you think that rhetoric is too heated because of the climate, I think It's appropriate because of what they've done, what they stand for. And they're the ones who need to change. I'm just calling it as I sees it. So please visit blacktnews.com. Check out content that I have. Please check out the store. Find something that you like. Find something for someone else. Give it to them as a gift. Do that. But also, if you would like to support, please, you can go to blacktnews.com/donate, leave a donation there, or you can follow one of those links at the bottom and do so that way. You guys have a great day. Thanks for being part of the conversation.